Breaking news tonight. Police desperately searching for a beautiful little 3-year-old Florida girl, Caylee, after her grandparents report her missing. Little Caylee now not seen for 11 long weeks. Last seen with her mother. So why didn't Mommy call police? Headlines tonight. Reports that Mom Casey has created a new and elaborate story full of details about the day little Caylee went missing, something completely different. Police arrive at the Anthony home in the early morning hours to confiscate a gun. That handgun reported to police by a tipster. This as reports emerge that grandmother Cindy on the verge of kicking Mom Casey out of the Anthony home just before little Caylee goes missing. Texas-based EquiSearch suspends search for 3-year-old Caylee. Why? And all this, as sources confirm, there was so much of the powerful chemical solution, chloroform, discovered by the FBI in Mom Casey Anthony's car trunk. Even the air in the trunk was saturated with chloroform. Mom Casey's computer revealing multiple visits to websites on chloroform. Investigators confirmed there is forensic evidence of human decomposition in Mom Casey's car trunk. All indicators are it was 3-year-old little Caylee. And tonight, tensions mounting outside the Anthony home. Protesters demanding justice for Caylee, refusing to leave. Grandfather George now facing potential battery charges after shoving 2 of the protesters. At this hour, Mom refusing to meet with cops or feds to help find her little girl tonight. Where is 3-year-old Caylee?
Do the right thing! Do the right thing, you love her!
Every day, God is telling me to look for my granddaughter.
God is going to tell you
He's alive. She's
every
alive.
day you take her.
I know that is not yours.
Get off my property. No, it's not. You're touching me. Get off better. You're off where I am.
It's just been a crazy scene at the Anthony home ever since Casey was released.
George Anthony facing criminal charges, 2 counts of battery, accused of shoving 2 protesters outside his home and while clutching a hammer. And that's not all. Cops also seized a gun from his car.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. I want to thank you for being with us tonight. The desperate search for a 3-year-old Florida girl, Caylee.
Channel 9 has learned that an intense fight right before Casey left with Caylee in mid-June was over money that Casey had stolen from her own grandparents from an account dedicated to paying for assisted living expenses. Tensions had been building over the theft.
Okay, what did the person do that you need arrested?
My daughter.
For what?
For stealing an auto and stealing money.
Channel 9 has learned Cindy Anthony had gone to a counselor who told her to kick Casey out. Cindy Anthony was worried that Casey would take Caylee with her, so the counselor told her to try to get legal custody of Caylee. Before that could happen, Casey and Caylee left, and Cindy believed Casey kept Caylee out of touch just to punish her. Relatives say Caylee was much more attached to her grandmother than she was to her own mother.
You don't know what my involvement is and stuff?
Casey.
Mom.
What?
No.
I don't know what your involvement is, sweetheart. You're not telling me where she's at.
Because I don't where she's at. Are you kidding me?
Casey, don't waste your call to scream and holler at me.
Officials suspended their search for Caylee Anthony, saying wet conditions are making it hard to clear areas. But search crews plan to return when conditions are better. Meanwhile, bounty hunter Rob Dick says Casey Anthony told him she left Caylee in Blanchard Park with babysitter Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez. Dick drove Casey to and from her parents' home to appointments at the jail and with her lawyer. Dick says Casey Anthony was very talkative but showed no emotion.
Straight out to the Anthony home, standing by there in Orlando, Florida, our producer Natisha Lance. Natisha, a gun removed from the home?
That's right, Nancy. Early Saturday morning, there was a gun. Police received a tip saying that there was a gun under the spare tire of George Anthony's car. Police came to the home. They did find that gun. It was removed. Now, the issue comes in because it is against the conditions of Casey's home confinement to have a gun or any weapon in her presence on property. Now, according to the judge, he's not going to revoke Casey's home confinement because she was not aware of this gun being there. She had nothing to do with the gun, but the gun was removed, and now no weapons are at the Anthony home.
We are taking your calls live. Let's unleash the lawyers. Joining us out of Atlanta, out of L.A. tonight, Daryl Cohen, veteran defense attorney. Also joining us out of New York, Carmen St. George, also a trial lawyer. Daryl Cohen, I know that the terms of her being on home arrest are no weapons in the home, but under the legal theory of curtilage, wouldn't that include the garage, the tool shed, the car? If there was a weapon in any of those locations, wouldn't that violate the home arrest?
Of course, Nancy, it violates the home arrest. But the fact that she didn't know it, the judge is going to give her just a little more leeway just because she's under home arrest, and it's probably as good as it's going to get for the moment.
Right. She didn't know about it, Carmen St. George, just like she didn't know how to break into that tool shed and steal gasoline. She didn't know how to get into her grandmother, who's like near 90 years old, into her rest home bank account and steal from it.
Nancy, you really have to consider that her father was a deputy. He's a former officer, and the court considered the fact that she didn't have any knowledge that the gun was there. She wasn't intending to use it. She had no connection with it, and really it was a pass that the court gave her in consideration of the fact that this really technically could violate her, but they're not going to use it to violate her.
I want to go back to the theory, what we've learned recently, that just before little Kelly goes missing, Cindy Anthony, according to reports of a local affiliate, was on the verge of kicking Casey out, Mom Casey out, and making her actually get a job like the rest of us. In fact, tensions had mounted so high, according to a local reporter, that grandmother Cindy had actually gone to a therapist about Mom Casey stealing money out of her grandmother's assisted living fund. Out to Drew Petrimo, reporter with WDBO. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, well, there are those tensions that were building over some money that she had taken out of an account that was actually intended for her grandparents' assisted living. And it's not just that. There was also MySpace records where Cindy Anthony was talking about some of the ways that her daughter, that she had provided for Caylee, and then talking about how her daughter had actually stabbed her in the back and keeping the daughter away from her. So through what we've learned, it's obvious that there was some tension there around the time that Caylee went missing.
So she had actually sought out a therapist to deal with Mom Casey Anthony stealing?
That's right, and the therapist actually said that she should try to get custody of Caylee and kick her out of the house. Of course, before any of that was able to go through, we're not sure if she was going to go through with that, but before any of that could happen, Casey,
left with the little girl. And back out to Natisha Lance, our producer, standing by just outside the Anthony home. Isn't it true that grandmother Cindy thought Casey kept Caylee away from her just to spite her?
According to this local report, that's true, Nancy, that she felt that Casey was trying to punish her in some type of way, ran off with Caylee to punish her.
Out to the lines to Linda in North Carolina. Hi, Linda.
The story.
I'm sorry, Linda, I couldn't hear you. Repeat.
I said thank you for following this story.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. What's your question, dear?
Quick question. Casey had reported that she ran out of gas, and that was the reason for leaving her car. Have they verified that, in fact, that she did run out of gas, or did she actually just park the car there?
Interesting question. What do we know about that, Drew Petrimo?
That's a great question, and something that we haven't learned yet. We know the car was actually towed to the tow place, and then the parents came up and picked it up after that. I imagine if there was no gas in it, at some time somebody would have had to put gas in it. But we haven't learned from investigators if they tested to see when gas ran out, if it ever did.
Everybody, we are taking your calls live. I want to go out to California bounty hunter Leonard Padilla, who first got this woman out of jail. You are putting up $50,000 for anyone that can help find little Casey. Is that true?
That's
little
correct.
Caylee. Why?
Well, I believe it's important to find the child, give her a decent funeral, because I believe that she is deceased. And somebody has to step up, so I'm hoping that somebody realizes that maybe they saw something at the Anthony residence on the 18th, or they saw something between the 27th and the 30th while the car was parked at the store. And incidentally, the car was out of gas.